a very important topic we've been covering for the last 10, 11, 12 days now. The LA fires. I think, we've done some, you and Fiorella did some great coverage with, we were able to have that discussion. We went to the burn zone, I guess you call it, the disaster area in Altadena. We've had discussions with, we got on Hardlines Media, Kit Cabello. I had a very thoughtful discussion about it with Garland Nixon. So there's people that want to know what's happening right here, right now. And Craig, I know I have to tell the viewers, you made a very awesome video. I want to play that in a second. But first of all, just because the Watch Duty app is where we get all of our access to what's happening in real time. And I want people to know, before we play your video, Craig, I want people to know that the fires have not been contained yet. We still have 2 fires. We still have the Palisades fire, according to Watch Duty app, is only 22% contained. 22%. It's burnt through 23,000 acres, heading on 24,000. And then we have the other one that we covered we went there on the ground a few days ago. The Eaton fire, still not contained. Still, they're more to halfway. They're at 55% containment, has burnt through 14,000 acres. The amount of damage is in the billions here. We have, you can't even fathom the amount of damage. The houses that have gone up in flames, the businesses that have gone up in flames. There's a deep dive of all the corruption and all the nefarious behavior. But I want to pass it to you, Craig, and play the video. This is a very thoughtful breakdown. I think it gives people a chance to kind of process all of the problems that are happening here, and whether you think it's it's accidental or sloppiness or nefarious behavior for whatever reason, these things need to be talked about. So let's go ahead and play Craig Pasta's video on the LA fires.
Who is to blame for the fires in Los Angeles, and who will we hold accountable? Is it nature, humanity, failed politicians, or something more sinister? Let's unpack this, because the answers are not as simple as pointing to a matchstick. First, the majority of Democrats say we can't ignore climate change, a force that they say is exacerbating droughts, intensifying heat waves, and creating a perfect storm for these fires. Some argue individual negligence, like carelessly tossed cigarettes or unextinguished campfires light the literal spark. We've even seen tweets from prominent right-wing news personalities blaming, you guessed it, illegal aliens. But personal actions are dwarfed by systemic neglect of power companies like PG&E, whose crumbling infrastructure has been directly linked to sparking wildfires. And let's not forget about politicians like Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, who, despite years of warning about every aspect of potential unnecessary fires, just shrugged their shoulders and passed the blame on to the fellow members of their party. So much for unity. And finally, what about those in the truther community who swear up and down like direct energy weapons from a HARP and geoengineering are the real culprits here? But the important question is, who stands to lose? Well, it's the everyday people. Families displaced, lives uprooted, and communities reduced to ashes. Wildlife, too, faces devastation, habitats destroyed, species pushed closer to extinction. Meanwhile, frontline workers, firefighters, first responders, and even, yes, prisoners put their lives on the line, often underfunded and underappreciated. And who stands to gain? Let's follow the money. Vulture capitalist companies like BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard will most definitely swoop in and snatch up scorched land at bargain prices. Fire insurance, in which companies have already canceled policies months before the storm, will be next to impossible to obtain. Ultimately, the Los Angeles fires reflect a stark divide, a system where profits thrive on peril and those responsible escape the flames, leaving the rest of us to sift through the ashes. It's time to flip the script and demand accountability from the parties responsible. Because if we don't, these fires will keep burning, and not just our forest, but the foundations of our society. And with that being said, who do you think is responsible? That's a good video.
Yeah,
you're a good video. Thank you, Johnny Tsunami. Love you. Who did
really good, man.
On that stuff. Yeah, and he does that like a 24-hour turnaround. If you got a few bucks and you want to spend it, go to Johnny Sue. Just amazing work. Love working with that cat. So yeah.
No, you're setting it all out there. I mean, it's really, how can you get angry at anything you ask, any of those questions you ask? And people get angry. They start talking about you conspiracy theorists, or they say things like, we cover this. I mean, they say things like, what's that go-to one that now's not the time or too soon?
Yeah.
No. Are you effing kidding me? Like, we have to have these discussions like this. If you wait on these things, that's when people get away with stuff. And
Yeah.
so we have to look at all. So I mean, all those things you covered, I mean, they're all important. The water shutting off, specifically the reservoir being bone dry, the Palisades Reservoir. That's why this thing's not contained. That's why it's still at 22%. And we're already a week and a half into this thing. The fire insurance being canceled. Karen Bass cutting off the fire department funding, the $17.6 million. She comes back. She leaves the country, comes back. She goes completely mute. The LAFD chief, Kristen Crowley, actually says out loud, they failed us. So we have people that are turning on each other in leadership positions, which is good. We covered so many of this. I mean, the Trump Newsom thing, that also is so irritating to me, Craig. The way that Trump and Newsom are like, oh, it's don't politicize it, no, this is not a political situation. This is about how has California been failed and why? Who knew about this going into this? And those zoning laws, I think that is the most irritating part. If you want to focus on that part right now, I want to look at that because you had mentioned that that's something that's actually gone through. This isn't just Gavin Newsom trying to meet and see if he can change these laws. They're actually going through. He's actually taking away the opportunity for single family housing to even rebuild, even if they want to and can. He's saying you can't even do that now in these areas. So it's like this. It's so nefarious. And I'm gonna, before your thought, I have to play this because I saw this morning. This is a local anchor from KTLA, local LA, and he is going to tell you in his excited face why this change in zoning is a very, very good thing. He looks very excited, and this is as theater as it gets, Craig. So let me show you. This is how they're trying to justify these zoning changes happening right here.
Interesting element of my conversation with Mr. Giacoletti was when he talked about the possibility of, as we start rebuilding, starting to relax some of the zoning laws, especially in a more working class neighborhood like Altadena, so that rather than putting up single family residences, especially on parcels where people might not have the wherewithal to rebuild at all, we allow developers to start putting up duplexes and apartments. In other words, increasing density, but also increasing more housing.
Have you ever been to Altadena? Okay, so I've had the pleasure, Matt, I've never told you this before, of knocking on doors with Sheriff Villanueva when he was running to be the sheriff, right? It was one of the only guys I voted for that election. I know there's a lot of leftists out there who are not crazy about him. There's a lot of Democrats or whatever that don't like him. But when he was running, before he was taken office, he was the progressive's choice. And I knocked on doors. Altadena is a very interesting area because a lot of people, especially a lot of black people, went to Altadena and bought houses there because they weren't allowed because of redlining in certain areas. So they made that their own community for people who had a few bucks to do so, especially back in the days when the film industry, you could actually buy a house in some of these outer skirts areas and go work in Hollywood. Altadena is a place where there's a lot of black people who lost their houses, right? And now they're going to get hardly anything, right? Pennies on the dollars. They're going to take whatever money they can and run, and they're going to oversaturate that place. This is, once again, like Hawaii, like Maui, a well-managed gentrification. These are the things that the CNC Music Factory song, things that make you go, because Altadena, like I said, it's not everybody was, it's a where people can live and buy houses. Yeah, but it's a lot of black people there. I mean, at least 3 out of 4 doors we knocked on had a black family there. And it was so intriguing watching Villanueva have conversations with people. I mean, that's why I had so much love for the guy, despite how much stuff he got. And it's like, I think the people who really chastise him, they're going to hate whoever is there anyways, no matter what. That's a different topic in itself. But that's the area that's burnt down. And, whenever I do get a chance to release, if I do, Lahaina on Fire Volume 2, once that dispute is settled, there's a state representative, Ellie Cochran, who's the city, not the city council, it's the state assembly representative for Lahaina. She talks about the zoning laws where they won't allow these families to rebuild on and let them build houses over there. So they can work it in 2 ways. In this particular case, I think it seems like they're in Hawaii, they're trying to force people off the island. And here they're just trying to force people out of that area. And now BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street come in and they put up duplexes and you're paying rent. You have renters instead of homeowners, and that's what they're going to do to Altadena.
Yeah. And when you look at that, so that newscaster, do you see how he spins this? This is what people have to watch out for this when they're watching. They turn on their local news and they think, oh, that's not as bad as CNN. That's not as bad as MSNBC. They're talking to us. We're locals. They know us. This is personal. We're all dealing with this together. Look at the way he talks. He's basically telling his viewers, he's saying, look, we understand that you're poor. We understand that you've lost everything. We understand that it's going to be very hard for you to build back your single family resident. So what Gavin Newsom is doing, he's going to make it illegal for you to do that. Yay! Because he anticipates you can't do it anyway. So you're going to have to get an apartment now in a condo. Oh, wait a minute, you can't afford that either. But isn't it nice that they're just planning for your demise? They're doing it in advance. So you guys, they understand your pain. They're literally going to make it illegal for you to do a thing that you're probably not going to be able to do anyway. Yay. That's what I got from that clip. And it's infuriating, Craig, because he's talking to the residents right here. This is very personal. This isn't Anderson Cooper. That's very impersonal what he does. When he comes, he flies in and he does his little theater with Newsom. This is very personal, talking to the viewers that are right there, right in town with KTLA. It pisses me off because I've been there. And you said about that community, Altadena doesn't get the coverage that Palisades gets. Palisades gets the coverage because of the Hollywood influence, because they are tied with the media, and it's more of a extravagant headline that these celebrities are losing their houses. Hollywood Hills, they get the coverage. By the way, the Hollywood Hills houses were put out. The fires were put out. Why were they able to get those ones put out? That's interesting, Craig. Those fires burnt down a lot of houses. Why were they able to get the Sunset Fire out so quickly? It was heading to Hollywood Boulevard. We can't let Hollywood Boulevard burn. We can't let that's our landmark. That's our brand. You got the Kodak Theater. You got Jimmy Kimmel Live. You got the Hollywood Walk of Fame. You got the Hollywood freaking Bowl. That ain't going to be burnt. They make sure of that. So, but again, those are the headlines that make the news, that sell them the viewership, sell them their advertising. Altadena gets screwed. And I'm glad we covered that. And I'm glad you're telling people right now how important it is that we shine light on this, and F you to the local news that isn't being more honest about this and how the state is being captured by these corporatists, and the people are losing everything.
Yeah. I mean, amen. I mean, there's nothing more to say. Look, too, when I laid out that video too, Matt, I just try to lay every single point out. I also want to re-highlight the fact that everybody's point of view out there. I try to leave anybody, the right, the left, the Democrats. I start off with the Democrats say it's climate change. I said the right, says it's like negligence from Newsom and Bass. I said the truthers are talking about direct energy weapons. Some people are saying it's individuals and like illegal immigrants. So I try to put everything in there so we have these conversations. And I think that's how I'm going to attack things moving forward. And that's why I've been enjoying doing these shows with you so much, because we do make sure we cover all bases out there. We don't play team sports at all, ever. We might have our own opinions, but we make sure that we list and we put out all the information out there. And I think it's really important that you pointed out that the Hollywood fires got put out, but the Altadena fires burnt down.
No, totally.
Yeah.
Well, one last point on this before we move on, because we're going to be bringing in our next guest with us. We have some stuff to get into there, but listen, the water thing has not been worked out. Gavin Newsom got to deflect that and blame Trump for, I don't know how he spun that one. Trump lied about the reservoirs because he didn't mention the correct one. He didn't say it was Palisades. He said it was another one. So Newsom's angry that Trump said the wrong reservoir, that it was the Palisades one that was bone dry. It's like, are you kidding me? That fire is still going right now as we speak. And that reservoir was gone. So this meme came up, and I know it's kind of funny. Sometimes we have to laugh at this, but we put this up on Tuesday. I'll put it up again. This is how people can help. We need help. We need water. We need water now. So if you guys can go ahead and grab an envelope, put some water in it, make sure you postmark it, put a stamp on, and send it to California, and then just put a little love heart in your name so we know that it comes from you. First name's fine, and we'll know it came from you. Thank you guys so much. It'll come here to California. We need the water as much as we can get. Thank you so much, everybody helping out there.
That's the thing too, as well. I don't believe that we need the water. I believe that the water is being mismanaged on purpose. That's it. It's coming from the aqueduct. Is coming, and I've seen the aqueduct. I've been in Palmdale before and seen it. It's mad water flowing down. It's a series of canals, rivers, lakes, whatnot. It's coming from northern friggin' Nevada. Okay, it's wet and cold and rainy and snowy up there. What they're doing with the water, and this is once again the Resnicks that we talked about, a Zionist family that controls the majority of water out there, and along with the other vulture capitalist companies that I mentioned before, they're making sure that they create scarcity. Because if they do that, right, then therefore they can profit off it more. If it's ever flowing and there's plenty of it, then no problem. We can't make money off that. It's like once you create scarcity, you create value. And that's what they're doing. That's the whole point of learning about Bitcoin is about, right? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
As opposed to the Fed that can just produce a bunch of money, and that's why there's so much inflation, because your dollar's not worth as much as before because they produce it. Well, they don't want to produce that water because they want to make money off it.